That's fine. I
Thank
really do appreciate it. Again, I'm gonna talk for a little bit, and then we can take 5 minutes, and then I'll do a deep dive into the boot camp. Um,
you. Okay.
so just to kind of lay some thoughts out about what we're doing at a high level. First, I'm very, very pleased that you all jumped in to take AWS. I'm glad you found it, at least a value proposition, as stated to you either on a personal basis or through the communications that we made through the item. I'm glad that if it was there was enough of a value proposition for you to jump in, and it appears as though everybody got some value out of attending the class, and I did as well. I think everybody picked up the concept pretty quickly, even for those who did not, necessarily have any basis whatsoever. And I think that was aided a great degree by Dion's ability to explain concepts, but also I think the willingness for people to jump in. I don't know how willing was. I mean, everybody had to sort of present during class, but I saw that people really jumped in and took responsibility for being in class and not necessarily letting their frustrations prevent them from continuing to practice in front of the whole class, which is a big part of this. One of the things that Dovin, our first instructor, kept on really imparting to us was the importance of being completely familiar with the material. I think for those who have worked in the IT space for a long time, know that engineers in general have very short tolerance for BS, and so he really made it incumbent upon us to know the material, to know our way around the console in great detail, so that when we step into a room as architects, or if we decide to focus on any one area, we're really demonstrating competence right off the gate. And that's why I think the practical approach in terms of being familiar with the console and just knowing your way around is really important. And it's something that you should continue to do as you are driving towards your certification, and also just in terms of practicing overall. You The beautiful thing about this class is that you now are familiar with the console and still have a ton of free time left. If you remember when you were first setting up your accounts, you each have, I think it's something like 750 free hours or a year worth of basically free credits on Amazon web services. So now that you're already familiar, don't let it sit. I know during studying, obviously you're going to be in the console, but even after that, make sure you play around because it's all really going to be free. Um, on a just taking the conversation up one level, you know, this class is essentially an extension of, as you know, part of what the item is trying to do overall, which is for people who are looking to pivot careers and add new skills. That's essentially what we're here to do. And so this class and what we just went through is a very big step in terms of us carrying out our mission, so to speak, for the audience. We want to make sure that people participate in tech, and not just at a level where they're consuming it, but really actively in their careers. So um, I'm on a personal level and at an organizational level, this class represents, a continuation and proving out that the reason why we exist is to make sure that, all Philadelphians participating in emerging tech is being realized in real time. And so, to the extent that others who might be in your position who are looking to gain new skills, please, ask them to come and check out the item and what we're offering, because that's it's a big part of it. Um, it's amazing that people have already begun to leverage their skills for positions. Beth, I'm particularly impressed. I know that you must have been looking before, but the fact that AWS in this class contributed in any way is huge. What we're trying to do at the item is it's not just have the class, but it's also have a way for you to actually implement the skill set that you just learned. And so, when I hear Jumoke, for example, saying that she's going to incorporate AWS services as part of what her company does, part of that is great for me to hear. But I also hope that she would turn to her classmates as resources to help her go after contracts, because that's part of how we're going to make sure that our skill set remains strong and active and viable, but also that we are bringing other techies into the space using this particular skill set. Because the reason why we're sounding the drum over and over again is because we think that it is, and we know that it's a skill set that is in very, very high demand. So, Jumoke, I'm holding you accountable for that. Um, on our end, what we're doing, and this is a call to all the members of the class, we are actively looking to create. Well, we're creating relationships with other engineering firms that are offering their clients hosting solutions, and
Okay.
we are we are going to be offering AWS services to those firms. So when they're going to be offering hosting solutions, whether it's DigitalOcean, whether it's Azure, if one of their clients decides that they want to host on AWS, we are coming to agreements where we would be the ones, meaning the item would be the ones to implement that. And the reason I'm mentioning that to you, even those of you who are going to be working full time, I would like you to consider working with the item as an engineer or as an architect on the AWS side of things, because one of the things we found is once we train people, we have to have a place for them to practice their skill if they're not going to be immediately employed, even if they're looking for positions. And so part of how we're trying to fill that gap is by getting into arrangements where we are we have the ability to offer AWS services to clients who are looking for hosting services and sysops and DevOps. So what we're really trying to do here is create a community. It's not about training, getting a job, and then going on. Of course, you're happy to do that, but we're trying to get more and more capacity in this AWS realm, and we would like you to be part of our team as we go about offering this skill set in the marketplace. Because again, it's a way for you to keep your specific skill set up, but it's also a way for us to be able to build capacity for the other um, students who are coming behind us. So does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, makes sense.
Great. So just to opine a little bit more about how we're going about building the skill set. Part of and this touches a little bit about what Carol was saying about understanding the fundamentals. And this is really also piggybacking on what Jovina advised us. The AWS skill and understanding cloud computing is very, very helpful. But there are two other skill sets that we think you should consider getting under your belt as you kind of pivot towards becoming a little bit more of a deeper tech. Again, the reason why we advocate cloud computing and AWS specifically is because of their market share and because of the pressing need worldwide for AWS architect services. So, there's an advantage there. However, the 2 and 3 other skills that are being strongly advised from very experienced engineers' perspectives are one that I think everybody already is aware of, which is security and cybersecurity, and the skill set that people are advising one to pick up in order to get in the door on the security side is a security certification called Security Plus. And I'm not saying, I'm just we're just having a conversation now. So it's nothing for you to run out and go and start looking at, but it's just something for you to internalize in terms of becoming well rounded as a tech. And again, this is from people who have been sitting with over the last year or so who are saying these are the foundational skills that you might want to complement the cloud computing skill. The other skill that is a fundamental one to understand is also networking as well. And the reason is because, irrespective of how sophisticated and how much faster the whole technology world gets, it is always going to be underpinned by networks, physical networks. And as we saw in building VPCs and all that, how important networking is. So as you're going along your journey and as you're deepening your skill set, when you look at cloud computing, you look at your security skill, you also may want to take a look at networking as well. And these are courses that we're going to be offering in order to round out the everybody as a really deep or a deeper cloud architect. And then the last skill, and it's something that you'll be brushing up on as you go along anyway, is you want to pick up a coding language of some kind. And while the more senior engineers advocate learning Java or learning C plus plus, what most people are advising one to pick up is Python. Now, I am against just picking up a coding language just for the sake of picking up a coding language, largely because I think coding is becoming shorthand for picking up a technology skill of some kind. But I think in the case of being able to walk in a room as an architect and be in the room as a skilled engineer of some kind, if you are going to pick up a language, what is being advised is picking up Python. And so that is something that we'll be offering a little bit down the line. And it's not something pressing. Even I haven't really started learning it, but these are just the sort of quote unquote faculty advisors who are saying this is how you sort of round out your skill set to be able to really secure your position in the field. So um, that's my little overview before we go into the boot camp. If anybody has any questions, I'd love to be able to answer them.
I think it was extremely helpful, especially when I think that at this time, not everyone has the ability to, I think it best serves to have a way in. I think like people like myself and even Vivian, who don't come from an IT background, I think that that's always helpful in terms of determining a direction in which to go by. I mean, of course, if you have, if you know other languages, of course, that's an additional feather in your cap. But how to best serve the amount of time that you have and to make yourself more qualified, if you will, to get into the door. I think that those ideas and those suggestions are quite helpful. My 2 cents.
Yes, Melissa, and I do agree with no background. It is helpful. My strategy or thought was to, take this one and the Security Plus as I dive into the cybersecurity world. So yeah, this is very, very helpful. I'm not looking to get total techie, but just enough to know what I'm talking about to clients. So thanks for this.
essentially just makes you more marketable, and that's how I see it. And you have to have an, a leg up, if you will, especially with so many people in terms of, on the flip side, from other foreign areas that are coming in. And as you, not you personally, but as the conversation was earlier, that they're coming in at a cheaper rate and are willing to work longer at a cheaper rate. And so you just have to figure out how best to fit in and how best you can market yourself so that you aren't, if you will, left behind. So
Yeah, so to that specific point, Melissa, um, the part of the strategy that we're trying to employ is multifaceted. So the reason why we chose AWS as a focus is because it falls squarely in the middle of the skill set. Meaning, as a professional service provider, this is me, Kahiga. I thought to learn a coding language from scratch that I thought would have long term value, I tried it and it just did not make that much sense to me. It was sort of like learning a foreign language and choosing either Mandarin or Japanese, right? There are easier languages to learn, so to speak, or easier skills to learn. But then on the other side of that was more, developing some kind of work productivity tool. And even though I thought enterprise was something that I would be able to understand as professionals, and most people who were pivoting would understand. Um, but part of the other rationale is pointing people towards an area that is very high in demand, which AWS is proven to be, especially solutions architect, which we focused on, but also a skill set that required a certificate, right? Because I think if you're not going to immerse yourself and be able to demonstrate that you have a deep skill in a particular area, if you earned a certificate of some kind, that demonstrates by the certificate provider that you've actually earned their skill, which makes some of the other humps a little bit easier to get over. You can demonstrate your skill. The reason why we're focusing on um, networking and security as the other two legs of our skill is because networking is something that is just never going to go away, right? No matter how sophisticated the environment gets, there are still going to be need for people who understand networking at a fundamental level. And so that's one of just those pillars where they say, if you have a bachelor's degree, you are more employable than the next person in a difficult economy. Networking is just one of those skills that is so fundamental that if you have it in addition to whatever other skill set, it gets you in the door. The reason for security is also very deliberate. Not only is there a demand, and everybody knows it on this phone call, but everybody on this in this class is, I assume, an American citizen, and that is where now we offer
Okay, you don't have to bring any back
a
from you.
meaningful competitive advantage to the H-1Bs
Yeah,
that we
and
definitely can't
I
compete
know I might have this.
because the security positions that are available right now and are in demand both in the public sector, meaning the government level, on the private sector, they often require
Okay.
and so
I can't hear you too well. There's background noise.
Carol, can you put your phone on mute, please? Can you put your phone on mute, please?
Yeah, I'm figuring it out.
So I'm sorry, I don't know where you lost me, Jumoke, but I'll just make the point, which is the reason why we chose networking as a complement to cloud computing is because networking is a skill set that is just never going to go away. No matter how sophisticated it gets on top, there is still going to be a need for people who understand how to physically connect the networks. And whether you understand that skill in the cloud computing environment or whether you physically understand how the network is put together, that is just a skill we believe over the long term will continue to remain relevant because the world has to be physically connected. The reason why we are pointing people towards security as an additional complement is because of what Beth mentioned earlier. Right now, part of the disadvantage of getting into the tech sector was, in fact, that there were a lot of H-1Bs that were coming over who would work for a 30 to 35% discount on what American workers would normally be billed at. However, in the world of cybersecurity, being an American citizen is an advantage. And whether it is in the public sector or whether it is in the private sector, there is a premium on being an American citizen in the cybersecurity universe. So, what part of our responsibility at the item is to make sure that you are making decisions that are leading you, whether you're a business person or whether you are looking for a job, that you're looking for positions in areas that are areas of growth or that have some competitive advantage for you. And so we believe that AWS, whether it's public or private, you are at an advantage because of just their market share at the moment and the demand. Networking is something that provides a fundamental skill that is never going to become irrelevant because no matter how sophisticated the environment gets, it still needs to be physically connected. And the third, as far as security, is in addition to the demand, as US citizens, you are not competing against the typical H-1B worker, especially in the public sector working for the government. And so we are building a curriculum that speaks to you not only having a very marketable skill set, but one in which you have a competitive advantage by being a citizen of the United States. So just to round out some of the thinking behind the scenes. Happy to answer any questions.
No, that makes sense.
Yes, and Kahiga, I agree with you about the your strategy. So when you started out with the programming languages, you know, the trend changes so quickly. You know, what's in season can change within, you know, probably a matter of a few years. So if you focus on one right now, then 2 years later, you'd have to learn something else. So it's, constantly evolving. So I think it's a good approach to focus on these other skills that are not going to really change, just other skill areas.
Thanks. Yep. And so, again, as we're going through this, we're really trying to build with you, meaning our classmates, our students, our fellow items, because this insight was only revealed to me, or at least the strategy is based on people who have been working in this environment for a very long time, and they are saying, listen, if you're going to get in, this is how you want to architect your path in the door. So again, I'm kind of giving you the insight. Normally, we wouldn't be getting into that, but I consider you part of our strategy in terms of being able to give back to the new students who come in, to be able to help us kind of share the word with others who are looking to pivot, and also to give us feedback about how we can or where we can market this further to let more and more people get in the door with tech. So just actively looking for you to help out on that as well, if I can. Um,
With that said, based on the skills that you're saying that we have to have, or it'd be good to have, for someone like myself with no experience at all, is this enough weight to kind of knock the door down a little bit?
Yeah, so that's why Vivian, that's the part that I was talking about earlier in terms of forming relationships with third parties and also building a consultancy ourselves. When I say, we're trying to provide the whole continuum, it means now that you have an AWS skill, what we're going to try to do is provide opportunities for you to apply that skill set in real time, meaning get jobs and have you work on them. Even, and I'm saying this even to Beth, for example, if Beth's new position does not have her apply her AWS skill, in real time, part of what I would like, her and other people in her position to say is, I have, an extra 5 hours a week. Is there a project that I can work on in order to shore it up? The reason I'm saying this, Vivian, is because the way you get into tech is one of two ways. The first is way, way more important than the second. The first is you have to have contact. You have to have a way in the door. If you're not bringing a 20-year resume the way Beth is to the table, specific to IT, then somebody has to bring you in. And that is what we're essentially trying to serve as. Meaning, these opportunities that I'm talking about, these relationships that I'm building down in DC, they're with the specific purpose of making sure that as you're going through your boot camp and you're taking the exam, when you leave that, yes, you're applying for other jobs and you're doing that, but the item should be one area where you can say, do you have any projects for me to work on, while I'm going about my career? Because the second really important point is experience. You have to build a portfolio of some kind. The portfolio is going to be built in one of three ways. The first is going to websites like Upwork. Upwork is upwork.com, or similar websites, and it's basically one where where you put up your skill set and you essentially bid for jobs. And there are S3 jobs and other architectural jobs that are available, and you can go after those to begin to build your portfolio. The second way you build your portfolio is by working on your own projects. So right now, if you poke around AWS, you see that they're really trying to encourage people to build skills around Lex. Lex being the software or the engine behind Alexa, and so they're offering free credits and tutorials. And so what you could do is build a skill set using Lex, and that now becomes part of your portfolio. So when you go in for interviews, you say, I'm skilled at AWS, and here is something that I build on Lex. You, as a banking executive, and who wants to get into cybersecurity, you might want to build a project that has something to do with either identity and access management, or something that has to do with security, so that you show not only do you have the banking skill, but you're applying your tech skill. And then the third way you get skills is by volunteering on projects. There are a number of meetups, like Open Data Philly, I believe it is, that offers projects on a week. Basically, they have weekly meetups where you can join in, and you essentially join a team as a junior developer, and they help you apply skills no matter how basic your skill set is. And that's how you, on your resume, say, I was on the open access data, or the open data access, whatever it's called, team that had, that set up GIS for PGW or something along those lines. So, but the very first way is, getting in the door by contacts. And that's what we're trying to do to supplement whatever other network you might be leveraging. I'm sorry, that's a long rambling answer, but I wanted to be comprehensive.
I got it. Thanks.
Sure. Um,
And Kahiga, I just wanted to add, there's a website called dice.com. Just going to put that out there for people like Vivian. So down the road, once you have like one project under your belt, you can post your resume there and recruiters will contact you. So just wanted to throw that out.
Yep. I'm just gonna roll right into the boot camp. Just unless anyone wants to take a break.
Yeah, Kahiga, what's the what's going to be the schedule like for the boot camp? Is it going to be the same schedule, or what's the days of the week, hours?
That's what I'm about to jump into right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, it's fine. So if anyone wants to take a break, but otherwise we can just get started right away. Okay. So just to jump right in, the boot camp is going to be 2 months long, and the first month you're essentially going to by and large be on your